Radius Radio. Check us out.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show here on Radius Radio here at Arrow's Independent Studio in Albuquerque, New Mexico's fabulous 505, the Duke City. Once again, I've been graced with the presence of another guest appearance with a very good individual, doing some other things in a positive nature, trying to get some other things handled and taken care of in a positive nature for certain individuals sometimes who don't have that voice for us, and with a lot of individualistic things that go on in our community inside of our so-called governments and some of our other issues, including the penitentiary systems, that a lot of times get swept under the carpet. She is a very strong member of the community here and abroad. She has brought to the forefront numerous things and went hand to hand with individuals who thought that they were above the law. She is a human rights activist, a community organizer. She's got some real heavy things coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I'd like to introduce once again Miss Selinda Guerrero.
What up, what up?
How are you doing this morning?
Man, thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to come and speak to the people through the show, giving us a platform so that we could talk about these important issues of our people.
Thank you so much. You're more than welcome. I mean, my guest appearances with you, I always get like the chills, like the shills, not the chills, no. Because you do have an actuality of the portrayal of what is going on. You're not just somebody who jumped into these things and trying to make a wave and then, you know, not deal with the ripples because of that wave. You actually bring that shit to the shore and, you know.
Right, it's like P.D. Green said, we are the people.
Yes,
I'm the people.
Exactly, and you know, that's most definitely. Last time we spoke, there was some situations going on in a really unfortunate manner in one of the penitentiaries here in New Mexico, to be actual Lee County, Hobbs, New Mexico's Lee County Penitentiary. It is a private run
Geo Group facility.
There you go. I was going to say slave trade, but
it most certainly is. Like, we have to continue to talk about it and acknowledge that the prison system, the prison industrial complex, is modern day slavery. That is what slavery has evolved into.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, it's an atrocity to say the least. Some situations were occurring at that present time. Last time we spoke, you personally had called out numerous individuals, Kelly, Chavez, Christina, a lot of other individuals that got at me, particularly about the circumstances that were arising there. We both, you and I'm sure numerous other individuals had themselves, but me and you particularly, we actually called out there to try to find out some of the bullshit that was going on at that time, because it was an atrocity that was taking place. Right. We're not sitting here crying, oh, I don't get my milk and I didn't get an orange on my tray. We were talking about actual fucking full-fledged civil rights violations.
Major human rights violations.
And after the fact, let me before I move that fast. One of the things that were told to you and numerous other individuals, but I myself was also told, that it was a statewide lockdown at the present time, which was bullshit.
It was a straight lie.
It was a straight lie, because in actuality, the statewide lockdown, which does occur twice a year in the penitentiary systems here in New Mexico. I'm not too sure of the other states, how theirs are run, but particularly, yes, that is an action that unfortunately happens. It's a gleaning of the field, so to speak, cleaning house type shit. Right. And they go in with the big shakedown, lock everything down, and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, cool. It goes hand in hand with it, but
what happened in Hobbs was not that.
Yes, there we go. Because in actuality, last week, already a month after we spoke, last week, the actual statewide lockdown went into effect. So they bullshitted us all the way. there was the possibilities of an actual murder had taken place out there in Hobbs, and it was tried to cover up. Fortunately, I did find the other part that I told you where Channel 4 did air that. And so we knew we knew the rigmarole and the runaround we were going to get, but not to that effect. To my understanding now, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over from here on these parts, but some of the things have changed there. Would you care to kind of help guide us through that, to some of the situations, what took place and what's going on now?
Yeah, so I'll give you an update on what is going on in Hobbs right now. The state actually, because of our community support. Now, I just want to shout out to everybody who made a phone call, wrote a letter, sent an email, took time out of their day to care about the 1,200 men that are in Hobbs prison. I just want to shout you out, because without you and that community support and that public outcry, we still wouldn't have affected change. And it was the power of the people that made the change. We didn't have attorneys, we didn't have media, we didn't have anybody on our side.
State monitors,
it was
nothing.
Just the power of the people.
Yes.
And what happened is the state went in and took over the prison, removed the warden, and has gotten things back on track over there. So the men are not in lockdown anymore. Their food is not being put on the floor. They were getting sack lunches, and the kitchen's getting back in order now. The big deal for the families right now is that they're cutting visits. They're cutting visits down to 1 day a week. And that's pretty traumatic for a lot of families that are trying to keep those connections alive, and visit their loved ones regularly and make sure their kids know who their fathers are. So that's still something that's in the works that we have to continue to focus on. But the overwhelming piece of it is that the prison is back under control now, and the human rights violations have ceased. And that happened right after we came on this show.
Yes.
We had hundreds of people making calls for us,
yes.
and it worked. The state went in and took over.
Right.
Also, the men that were in segregation at RDC, who were being retaliated against, that were taken out of Hobbs, all got their placement sheets now, and they didn't get points for what happened, and they're okay. So I just want to report, and they moved on to different facilities, and I just want to say, that all in all, like, our people are okay right now, for the moment. But we got to keep our eyes open, because these things happen at the drop of a hat. These human rights violations are fluid, and they think, this administration thinks that they can get away with it, and that we're not going to be watching them. So it's important that we keep that focus on, and anytime that something happens, that we rally and we support each other, and the people come out and create the public outcry like we did, because that affects the change.
Yes, most definitely. And you are correct. The power and the numbers of the support that went through for this, it obviously showed, there was some sort of, and the outcry, the public outcry, it did bring about where they had to, hey, well, we don't just got 1 or 2 or 5 people calling. We got numerous individuals, and hundreds actually. Hey, what the fuck is going on with my people behind that wall? Now, we understand, unfortunately, sometimes, they put the fence on individuals. But still, there are federal mandates in place that are needed to be addressed, because they are not being followed. CBC, for those who are not familiar with that term, it is Central Bureau of Corrections, the Pink Palace here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And these idiots, I'm gonna fucking be real. I do not understand how any government could allow such an atrocity as even hiring individuals such as these in Central Bureau of Corrections, who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, and the only difference between the inmates and them is the uniform they wear, because they're more criminalistic than 90% of the individuals behind that wall.
Absolutely.
And so they keep these people downtrodden, and
it's intentional.
And they write their own policy. It's personally known. They write their own policy. Where the revisions come into the policies, you see where the actualities, you got unit managers, caseworkers, corrections officers on a committee signing off new policies without even having it passed anywhere through legislature or any government of any type, hey, you can and cannot do this. Nobody rings them in.
There's something that a lot of people don't know. So the caseworker's job description in the penitentiary system in New Mexico actually has a job requirement of fine manipulation. Think about that. They're required to exercise fine manipulation through the course of their duties.
Would you care to elaborate a little bit? Can you explain the term there?
So think about what does it mean to manipulate somebody?
They
right?
are paid to fuck with you.
They are paid to manipulate the inmates and fuck with their records and give them bad information. And that's why we have caseworkers that go in every single month to audit files.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. Everybody knows what their good time is. We know what 85% is. We know what 50% is. But why are they going in and fucking with the file every single month?
Right.
And now they're doing this thing where they got blown up because of in-house parole happening a couple of months ago. Some stories came out. They went national. And I appreciate the people who came out and finally spoke on it. But what happened now is they're actually changing the kick-out dates to make it look like people aren't on in-house parole.
Yes.
That is what fine manipulation looks like.
In 2007, I ran into a similar situation during my stay of recognition with the fabulous state of New Mexico's correctional facility, but where we fought through the Human Kindness Foundation, the Prison Coalition itself, and I stepped in on behalf with the Juvenile Life Without Parole systems and organizations, because what was taking place, and it was actually written by the committee, passed through by Central Bureau of Corrections without legislature following it, that you could be re-paroled off and come back and then continuously bring
on the
you
same
back.
number.
Exactly. And where they were
That's illegal. That's an enhancement of your sentence.
You're damn right. And you were being recommitted with new numbers. I have a 3-6 number. You don't go back and change that, and then they try to bring back another number so that they could re-parole you off of that one when you're already you have 90 days left and come back in on a violation of some sort. There was a lot of individuals getting rolled like that, and nobody has ever brought that shit to the surface, and these people are getting fucked off. If you cannot subtract, we have brought this once before on your first guest appearance, and you just mentioned it now. Let me explain something to you. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She is very incredible. I love the shit out of her. Daddy loves you. He thought I love you. But she can count to 10. Now, if you have a grown-ass individual where you just stated 85%, for those of you who are not familiar with the violent crime situation that takes place in New Mexico, if you were charged with a violent crime, your sentence carries 85% of that. If you have a non-violent crime, you are charged 50% of your actual sentence. So hypothetically, if you got a 4-year sentence on a non-violent crime, you're going to do 2 years. And your pre-sentence confinement during your incarceration awaiting trial is supposed to follow with you. Nowadays, they're flipping it around and they're not doing that. But because these stupid-ass fucking ignorant caseworkers and unit managers, they need help. They need to be charged criminally, because during those things with the audit, what 85% means is you are credited with 8 days a month, 4 days a month for your sentence. You are then incredibly charged with the 50%. You are allowed 8 days a month to come off of that sentence. And